Hey everybody, it's Dale Jr. back again for another episode of the Dale Jr. Download. It's Dirty Air on Tuesday, and we've got a lot to talk about, a lot of things going on in my own life. I caught a shark. I about choked. And there was a race this weekend, Iowa. We got to talk about that. Let's get started. The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media. All right, so we're back in the Bojangles studio. It's been a while since I've been in this room. Been on vacation and have enjoyed it, but we're back in the Bojangles studio with Andrew and Dalton and everybody listening on Sirius XM this week for another episode of Dirty Air. Pretty full show, I think, to get to. First off, a couple of personal stories. I mean, obviously we could talk about it. We could fill this whole show with things that have been going on at the beach, but
I want to see where you're going with this first bullet point.
Well, yeah. So I'm telling you, man, has anybody in this room choked on any food to the point that they needed assistance?
Not to the point of assist. No.
I gave someone the Heimlich once.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
all
pretty
right.
insane.
So, all right. I mean, that pretty much happened to me the other night. We were at dinner.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't get it all in your head. It was this big scene. Man, I eat fast, way too fast, and don't chew my food. And you know, we're at this restaurant, and I love this restaurant that we're eating at. It's called the Longboard, and really good place in Sullivan's Island, South Carolina, and that, you know, been wanting to go there for a couple of weeks. They got this really great salad and a couple of dishes I was excited to get, and they all come sit down at the table, and me and Amy are going to share a couple of plates. And so I take one bite of 3 different plates. And dude, I went to drink, and yeah, it wasn't going down. It was like stuck right in the center of my chest, and I was like, I can breathe, but I was freaking out a little bit. You know, you don't breathe because you don't think you can breathe. The food isn't stuck in your airway; it's kind of
stuck in your
in your chest.
Yeah.
God dang, dude, I was freaking out, and I grabbed a buddy of mine was sitting next to me, and I grabbed him, and he's like, "Oh, you need to get up," and I was like, we was in a booth. Me and Amy and a couple other people, and I was like, no, you know, I mean, I was hitting him, and I turned around.
Like when you said no, were you barely were you barely able to say no?
I don't think I said anything.
Oh, yeah, you just gave him the look?
I don't need to get up. And I turned around facing Amy, and he smacked me in the back of the chest, or in my back. He hit me in my back like as hard as he could, like 3 times, and that fixed it.
Holy cow,
but, dude, I'm going to tell you, man. It scared the shit out of me, and you know, I'd never had that happen before. Now I've had some situations where I've recognized I got to do a better job chewing my food, man. I
one of the basic fundamentals.
Yeah, like I am I'm not chewing my food, and it's hard to get it to go down. I have to drink fluids to make it go down, and that was a crazy moment that it didn't create a problem in the restaurant. I couldn't tell because I was freaking out. I was kind of in my own little world for like 15 seconds, and everybody at the table knew what was going on. And there was my little girls were sitting there, and they were kind of freaked out. But the rest of the restaurant, thankfully, wasn't.
It's not everyone's like, hey, look at this guy choking over here.
Yeah, no,
like,
wasn't none of that going on. So
yeah.
I was thankful for that. But man, I'm glad my buddy, you know, I'm glad that worked, and I didn't need
like the Heimlich,
something else.
Yeah,
that's like that would have definitely been, you know, hey everybody, go over here, big problem.
Because you know when someone's getting the Heimlich.
Yes.
That's not a subtle thing.
I had to do it in the middle of a busy restaurant on a Friday night when I was serving tables.
Did you know? Oh, so you didn't know the person that you gave the Heimlich to?
I was serving him, and this guy his wife gets up and is screaming like, "Oh my gosh, he's choking!" And so I run over there and
like
put my arms around him and start pushing, and he goes, chokes it,
holy
pops it
cow,
up,
man.
and then he ended up tipping me $20, and I was like, oh, I'll take that.
That's
That was
the
nice.
that's
Yeah.
the price for saving someone's life.
More?
$20 on top of
On
yeah,
top of-
exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the going rate.
That's the going rate. That's what I charged. I told him, he signed. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
We went fishing yesterday before I came home. This weekend we had 15 of us in the house. Amy's family.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a big, busy thing. And we had a great time. Amy's family is lovely. We had 2 boats because it's so many people, but we ended up putting a couple rods in the water and had one get a fish on, and this fish is big. It's taking a lot of line out. And the guy, so I grabbed the pole and I'm holding on to it and I'm just letting the fish go. And he's like, yeah, that's a pretty good size fish. I don't know what that is, but that's pretty good. And it's going and going and going, and it's taking the line out. And he's like, don't try to pull it in. Just let it go. I'm reeling in like 2 foot here, and it's pulling out 2 foot, and I'm reeling in a couple feet, and it's pulling 2 feet back out. I'm reeling in 4 feet, it's pulling 4 feet back out. This goes on for 50 minutes.
50?
50 minutes.
Holy cow.
No, me holding the reel, like the base of the reel is just jammed into my thigh, and I'm moving it all around because it's painful as hell because it's, holding it's a 60-pound line, I think, on this rod. But I let my buddy Billy reel for a little while, basically just holding the rod because the fish is just doing what it wants. Man, we finally got it close to the boat, and it was a 10-foot lemon shark.
It's badass.
Yes, and kind of scary looking guy. But so we're not gonna bring him in the boat, but the guy's like, you got to touch it. You got to put your hand on it and take a picture.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm thinking.
Lay down here at the tail.
I'm thinking like these things, what I don't know is that sharks are lethargic, and he's just chilling. He's just, I'm at the boat, he's just hanging. And, but I'm thinking, man, I put my hand down there and he's going to turn into a damn alligator quick. And
some of them have like the reflex, if you like touch near their mouth, like it just opens automatically.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I put my hand on his top of his head, and I don't think we got a picture. I don't know, but we got a video. Amy's got one on her Instagram story. It's probably be gone by the time this comes out. But anyhow, that was fun. Never done that before. We had some great conversations, and I wanted to. This is a short one. I want to kind of keep it short so we move on to the rest of the show. But I was, Amy's family's there, right? And I just want to make this point that I thought was really interesting, and I wrote it down when we were talking about it the other day. They aren't hardcore race fans, didn't grow up race fans, right? They got into racing and watched it just because I did it a little bit, right? So they're very casual. And they're younger, probably 10 or 12 years younger than me. The other husbands in the family. And they were telling me, they were like, man, they're very big fans of baseball and football and golf, and they've been to all of those events and watched them. And one of the things that they said that I never even thought of, but I thought it was so nice to hear from somebody that didn't grow up in it, right? I'm biased. I love it. I think it's the greatest thing in the world in terms of NASCAR and racing and stock cars. But they said seeing a race in person there's not enough emphasis on getting people to the racetrack in person. And we worry about TV ratings, right, of course. I mean, we should, right? We want great ratings. But there's not maybe there is emphasis, but it doesn't feel like that is prioritized to get people to the racetrack, right? And so these guys didn't connect to the sport till they saw it. Watching it on TV didn't get them into it, right? They didn't tune it on. I turned on the NFL as a 7-year-old and was like, holy crap, I love this. I love this team. I'm a fan now forever, right?
Yeah, right.
And that happens when you watch most stick and ball or athletic sports. You connect to an individual. or a team or a local team or whatever, right? And you don't have to be there or go to see it for this to happen. You can this comes across on television. Whereas they were telling me that they have watched races and just would look at it and go, yeah, it's okay. But when they went and saw it in person, the speed, the sound, the smells, understanding the rules, they watching it on TV, it's confusing, and then they get there in person, they're like, oh, I see how it's playing out. It's right here in front of me. All those things were available to them in person and made watching it on TV easier, way easier in the future. And so they were telling me, they're like, man, this is something that NASCAR needs to really tap into and focus on, is getting people to the racetrack to turn them into fans. And spending maybe an investment already on top of the current investment. I know that NASCAR puts a lot into this area, but they're like, man, once we went and saw it, that was more important for me becoming a fan of NASCAR than any other sport they'd ever observed or known of, right? And they were like, it's not even close. And so I just thought that was interesting. And I know I've always felt separated from stick and ball, right? Athletic sports, high school, college, all that stuff's available to you as a child. Racing is not. To go racing, you gotta have a local track nearby. You've got to have all these things fortunately accessible, right?
You can't just go fire up the go-kart in the backyard.
Nah, not really.
Yeah. And
so I've always felt like we had a more difficult sell, or we had a difficult job or challenge to connect people to the sport. And they said it so well. I was like, yeah, man, I never even thought about that. And so, but I just thought that was interesting coming from them. They were like, man, going to the race and seeing it for the first time is how I was able to go back home and then turn it on Sunday and go, yeah, I want to watch this.
Right.
That's what hooked me into the sport.
100%. I would agree with that.
Seeing it in person.
Oh, yeah. I was the same exact – the story you were describing. My dad watched it on TV. I'm like, why are you – this is so boring. He took me on my first race, and that was it. Like, that was what hooked me.
Yeah.
I mean, even, like, I grew up going to Hickory Motor Speedway, and even going there was like – it just captivates all five senses. You know, it's like you can smell it. You can hear it. There's an energy in there, whereas, like, with other sports, it's there in small doses, right? Like you get the crack of a bat, or someone breaks off for an end zone run. But in NASCAR, man, and racing, it's just all full tilt all the time. It's captivating.
Yeah.
One thing I think that NASCAR is doing a good job, like one good example, at least last year, was the street race, because so many fans, when I was there, I asked them, what brought you here? And it was the fact of like, well, it was unavoidable. I have to go check this out. This is in the dead center of the city. Like, I have to go see it. And there's probably 70% ratio of new fans to original fans that were there. So
yeah, I'd agree with that.
I don't know. More things like that I think would be good.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on the Truex's retirement before we went into the race.
Let's go into it.
Yeah, because so it was I sent Martin a text. I was like, hey, man, I'm about to watch this press conference, man. And I was really happy for him. Told him I'd see him at the deer camp, because that's the only time I see him. Good. It's I don't even know where to start, actually. The first time I believe I met Martin was at Richmond at a tire test. I took the Gossamer car that we ended up winning the race with to test. The Gossamer car, I think we ran it in 02, 03, sometime around then at Richmond during one of the night races in the Xfinity Series, orange car. And it was a 1.5-inch drop Hutchinson Pagan chassis, which was really unique. No one else had one of those. Hutch had their chassis had kind of been normalized and they weren't sexy, right? And drop snouts were kind of weird. People weren't sure about those, or it's a commitment to buy that car and it work, and you not want to throw it away and waste all that money. Anyways, it was a really great race car, and we were testing. I didn't know the car was as good as it was, but we were testing, getting ready to find out. And Martin was there, and he was driving his dad's car, his family car. And I'm watching a little practice, and I see him go by a couple times. And Richie Gilmore came over to me and said, I want you to pay attention to Truex. We were talking to his dad about maybe getting him over here and running him a couple races. And so I watched him practice, and I was like, Richie, we ought to just throw him in my car, let him run a little bit. And unfortunately, I think it started raining, but he came over there, and we talked during, since we had some time with the rain going on at the test, we ended up talking quite a bit. And then, he goes and he ran Homestead later that year in his own stuff and kept racing his own stuff for a while. But we ended up becoming really good friends when we were going to run him full time and he's going to have to move here. He moved into my house and lived just down the hallway from me in the upstairs modular home that I had. And he started doing well, making a little bit of money, able to afford rent, and I had probably 20 rental properties scattered around town. And I had another one right on the other end of my property, and he goes and rents that house with another friend of ours. And we spent a ton of time drinking in the basement, going to bars in the middle of the week, hanging out on the back porches, running around on the farm, being idiots. We just had a lot of fun. We went on a trip. Guys trip somewhere tropical. We were on the beach hanging out and rented this house. And he had started talking to Sherry Pollux. And so when we got home from that trip, he moved out. And they ended up getting a place, or he went into her house, or I'm not quite sure what happened, but he left the compound. And and he's been on his own ever since, right? And I'll say this about Truex. What I mean by that is Martin is not a texter. He's not going to call you up. He's not going to wish you happy birthday. He's not going to say Merry Christmas. Nothing. You might not hear from him for an entire year. But if you drove over to his house and knocked on the door, he'd be like, "Hey man, hey, where you been? What's going on? How's it going, man?" He's just like, it doesn't matter to him. He doesn't need. He's just one of those unique person like this. He's super severe about this. I know there's a lot of people are listening on the other end of this line right here, going, "Oh, I know all kinds of people like that." No. Truex is way out there. No contact.
Will he text you back?
Yes.
Yeah, he will. That's
but
good,
it's usually like an okay or a yes or an emoji.
Right, the thumbs up emoji or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's who he is. And so he doesn't mean anything by it. It's just how he
communicates.
Yeah. And he's going to be on a boat fishing or in a deer stand. I believe, in that press conference, him talking about racing some more, I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, I know he'll probably get bored.
Really? You don't think?
Once he gets on the boat, man,
it's over.
It'll be hard to get off.
I mean, he said he wanted to do like 10 races or so. I think
I'll
Xfinity.
believe it when I see it. He's gonna. I think that guy right there is going to find new projects and new things to invest his time in that will encompass his love for the outdoors, his love for fishing and hunting. I see him putting more time to those things that actually generate some type of revenue for him. His connection with Bass Pro and Johnny, I mean, he's the perfect spokesman for that brand because he lives that life. But I just want people to know, man, that he's a good dude, and never gonna do anything that's to put you in a bad spot. I've always appreciated him. He's super quiet, super to himself. When we go hunting, he's pretty chill. Not a big conversationalist. Not a lot of talk. But we do have fun. We cook. We sit by the campfire and hang out and catch up a little bit. But outside of that race car, I don't know many people that are as simple-minded and basic as him. He's not very complicated.
What advice would you give him for the rest of the season?
Well, I think the one thing I would tell him is, if you announce your retirement and you're a champion like he is and a Hall of Famer like he is, people are going to want to celebrate you. As you go to these races for the rest of the year, people are going to want to take a moment to acknowledge you. And genuinely, the reaction for that from us, and especially probably from Martin, is no, I'd rather not. Don't make it about me. I don't want any of the spotlight. It's just another race. I just want to do this and finish it out. But my advice would be to let it happen, absorb it, let people celebrate you, and it matters to them, right? They're not doing it just for you. Yeah, they want you to know that they are appreciative, that they are glad you were here, right? They were glad you were part of the sport, and so and especially, it's a lot of you got fans that want to have that same moment, see you acknowledged, and so instead of sort of boxing, closing it off or trying to tamper it. Just let it roll. If you get called in the press center at some of these racetracks for some special, moment where the track wants to do something unique, just go with it. You're going to get asked to do a lot of media. I've already reached out to try to get Truex on our show. I would encourage him to do all of those things.
Especially our show. Our show first.
Yeah. Literally, it's a victory lap. It is. Go for it. Let it, have some fun with it. There'll be a day when all that's gone, and as much as you may not be in love with all aspects of everything that happens outside of the car, you're going to find out that you actually liked a lot of it, and that you actually, you got so used to it being part of the routine when it doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't, you don't get it back. You can't go plug back in. And so just, let it all happen and soak it all up.
He said during his press conference that he consulted various drivers about what retirement would look like. Did he have any conversations with you about that over the past couple of years?
No, not really. I would ask him about whether he was going to do it or not, and he did. He in his way, it's he's not. I'd love to see them conversations. Can't imagine they were more than 2 minutes long. But
they're pretty quick.
Okay, yeah. Thumbs up emoji.
Yeah.
I'm sure he talked to a few drivers that just recently retired, maybe Harvick. But he's going to do it his way, and that even that press conference, right? Even going and having a press conference on a Friday at a racetrack when you're, Martin did it as,
it seemed very subtle.
He did it as minimal as he could possibly do it.
It was so minimal.
Come in there and do it, say it, get out of there and leave.
It was perfectly Martin.
Right.
The way it should be.
And so, we talked a lot about the early days of getting Martin into the DEI fold with Richie Gilmore on our Dale Jr. Download if you want to go back and tap into that show when we had Richie on. But, yeah, I'm a bit sad about it. I think the reason I'm sad is just because you kind of come into this situation where you got guys that you raced with all your most of your career, and their careers are now coming to an end, and it's just a reminder of getting old. It's a reminder of you're further along in this life than you realize, or than maybe you want to be. You wake up one day and you're like, the 30s are gone, the 40s are gone. Truex is only 43, which, hey, I think I've said it on this show. 43, man. That is the number.
Mm-hmm.
43 is the age.
For what?
So
Halfway?
Oh. When I was 43 is the year where if you're a stock car driver in NASCAR, 43 is the age where you are more than likely going to see a unique reduction in performance. And so when I was retiring, with my head injuries and stuff were a concern for me, and so I was thinking I need to stop doing this every single week. Take myself out of some of those events that I thought were more potentially dangerous for me. I knew I was retiring early, at least in my mind, and I still feel like I could, I still feel sharp enough, young enough to jump in there and do it right now at 50, right? And or 49, soon to be 50. So I still feel like I felt 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I don't feel old. I don't think old, But I knew I was retiring earlier than I wanted to, or would most likely retire, and so to ease my mind a little bit, I went in and dove into maybe a dozen race car drivers that had retired recently, Bobby Labonte, Tony Stewart, and a handful of other guys, and I looked at how they performed beyond 43, and in most cases, their results and their success began to dwindle beyond that age. And maybe I'm making this up, but I felt like I was having a hard time getting results. We might have been able to find a combination that got me better success, but the likelihood was that I was going to continue to have performance somewhat similar to 2017. So that probably wouldn't have been all that great or all that fun to race a few more years just doing it at that level of performance. So, I mean, we might have been able to fix it, but I don't think the odds are in our favor. So, looking at other people's careers and how they had done beyond 43, there is a good sample of drivers that whatever it is about that age, it's kind of the time when they either lose the competitive race car, right? They get relegated down into a lesser team,
mm-hmm.
or injuries mount up or whatever. I've always wondered what was it that causes a driver to lose pace and speed and performance, and you get older and you stop taking risks and you stop putting it in situations where those younger guys are willing to go. You think you're just being smarter, but you're also giving up opportunity and on the racetrack. But yeah, Martin, I wanted to ask him last week, but like his eyesight was not that great as he got older. And I know he raced and was successful quite a while, well beyond 43. But some guys just have different physical things that limit their abilities.
Yeah.
Over time, but 43 seems to be
the number.
Be the the most popular number?
Everyone's saying, because now Truex is leaving. Chase Briscoe seems to be like the top candidate. Everyone's saying his name is the one to replace him. Like, what's your instant reaction to Briscoe potentially filling in that 19 seat?
Yeah, I saw the door bumper clear guys say that they think that announcement's coming soon.
Yeah.
So, I think that the 19 car is a championship car, a top 5 car. Martin is a really, really good race car driver, so we'll see just how much of that he was doing to keep that car up front, right? When that car switches drivers and the performance changes for the better or worse, it's an
adjustment.
Well, I'm just saying it acknowledges
the ability
of the previous driver, right? Either for the best, for the better, or for worse.
Yeah.
In public opinion, at least. So we'll find out we'll find out what I think, and that's that Martin was very good. And when I went, I forget what was happening over at Hendrick. Maybe Mark was leaving or Mark was going away. I was begging Rick to hire Martin Truex Jr. to come there because I thought, man, Martin Truex Jr., me and him in the same building together would have been awesome. And I thought that Rick would have loved what Martin could do over there. But so that's how much I think of the guy's ability. I'm not sure. Chase Briscoe, I think, is a really good race car driver, and more often than not, since Harvick's peak, Chase has kind of been the car that runs the best and has the best position in points. So he's the more consistent, producer at Stewart-Haas Racing.
Highest in points right now. He's 19th in points, 44 short of the cut line right now.
Right.
Best of the Stewart-Haas cars.
So I mean, I think I think that it's going to work out, but I think there's a level of risk as well for Joe Gibbs Racing. I think that one thing that definitely made a difference in this sign, and this is why this is happening and coming so quickly before any other. Before any other drivers like, Priest and Josh Berry and Noah and those guys. The reason why I think this one's coming together so quickly is because Briscoe has a ton of financial support that he himself has created, right? Like I don't want to say like he's, he the partnerships that he's bringing, the maybe multi-million-dollar deals that he's bringing along, he has nurtured them, right, to his benefit. I'm complimenting,
right,
what he's been able to do outside of the race car. That is probably the one reason why Noah Gragson will be in Cup next year again, is because Noah too has created partnerships that love him. And they want to go take their millions where Noah goes. And so, I think Noah ends up in a pretty decent spot. I think that's a big reason why Chase Briscoe's getting this opportunity at Joe Gibbs, because I think Joe Gibbs Racing is they've had a couple of tough things happen in terms of partnerships and sponsors over the last couple of years, and they're looking to stabilize, financially. A driver like Briscoe, who's got great talent but also has great partners, it's a hard deal to turn down.
Definitely.
It's a hard deal to turn down. So
I'm hearing Noah maybe to RCR's the rumor, even that 21 seat might be open. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see where all these drivers end up going.
The 21's open, I think, and Rick Ware Racing might be available.
Right.
Haley's been rumored to maybe
move around.
moving around
Yeah.
and talking.
Front row.
Front row's got
Front
row's got
2 open, right?
Well, I think front row will only have one unique driver. I think
and then is there another spot at Spire, or is that, I guess McDowell would be going and
I think
filling
Spire's full.
Yeah.
Someone's
Spire's full, Trackhouse is full.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean all of those cars to me are kind of lateral moves. They're all about the same. There's not like one that's really great and one that's really bad. I think if you're a great driver, very committed, very focused, you go to any of those, and if you do what you're supposed to do, you can make them better. And so even Rick Ware, right? Even the second Rick Ware car, if Haley moves out, look at where that car is running right now. They've got a great relationship with Brad Keselowski's program over there, and so that's, Haley came in here and told us, man, this is going to work.
There's proof that car can run well now.
Yeah. Yes.
Finished 13th.
I mean, the value if Haley goes somewhere else. Now Rick Ware's seat doesn't look as crazy as Justin Haley's move.
Anymore.
It's not a bad seat anymore.
Isn't that crazy? In just like 6 months, it's like,
all right. Like you can going to Rick Ware's like, okay, I understand that.
Never
move.
Go there before, right? I don't want to drive that car.
That is, I mean,
now, yeah.
Props to Haley because I know we've been giving him props the last
to
couple
Haley,
weeks,
but also Rick Ware.
Rick Ware,
and
of course,
all of the things that have
turned that
around.
Seat around.
Crazy. I mean, we keep talking.
Hell
about
yeah. Should we move on to the race, Iowa race?
Yeah.
Just what was your, I guess, instant reaction
to?
He
tweeted. Solid race.
Good race, yeah.
Solid race.
All right, so we saw the repave, the Frankenstein repave. Me, Hamlin, everybody was a little bit questionable. We were maybe more than questioned.
We were intrigued. That was the official word.
We were trying not to be
and that's right.
And say, what in the hell did y'all do? This is going to be awful. But we didn't know it would be awful. We just knew we were going to tune in. We might not see what we want to see, or we're still going to be entertained. There were some issues with right front tires, right? Maybe I would say more in the Xfinity race than in the Cup race. Now, there were some teams that have some problems, but the tire failures in the Xfinity race seemed to be catastrophic, where it was, blow a tire, smash the wall.
Yeah, I was talking to Adam Wall, I ran into him this morning, and even Steve Letarte some yesterday, and it seemed like the Xfinity race was way more heat related, and so like the tires were blistering more. Plus, I think it was the same tire that they used back in 2019, and now there's more grip in the turn.
So that's probably a good reason why running the race at night, maybe the cooler temperatures and stuff helped the Cup race. But also when their tires failed, those cars didn't just go slam into the wall wide open. Some of those hits for the Xfinity boys were brutal, and that was frustrating to watch because you knew somebody was going to be. I mean, if you're watching that race and you see 4 or 5 guys blow right front tires and hit the wall at about 40, 50 G's, do you want to go climb in one of those cars and take the next tire run?
Definitely.
Right? It could be you, right? And so that's not going to feel good. And so that was frustrating to watch, not just because one of our cars or a couple of our cars had issues, but just knowing what those guys go through physically in those crashes is it's frustrating to watch. But the Cup race ended up, and it was a good race. The Xfinity race outside of all of that was fine.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. They were using the second groove. There was more than one groove. I didn't think that was going to happen. I said, man, it'll be a single lane. Don't get outside that lane.
I was wrong. Racing.
The Cup race was more the same. Guys could pass. Passing wasn't too terribly difficult, and they had to use each other up, which was fun, right? So if you got on the inside, the guy on the outside could make it really difficult, and you had to lean on them a little bit or even drive them up the track some, and that's awesome. That's short track racing. I mean, Iowa, I might have to bend my own rule a little bit on what a short track is, because they certainly raced it like it was a short track, being a little physical, a lot of contact. So I was really entertained. I enjoyed it. Good race. I hope that Iowa gets another date.
I think it was a good audition.
Yeah.
It was a good tryout. We were talking about that last week. This is a big moment for Iowa. I feel like they passed the test in terms of it being entertaining.
In Jeff Gluck's poll, it got a 91%.
Holy cow.
I think, NASCAR's in a tough spot. They want to go to Mexico, and I don't think that's been announced yet.
It's kind of one of those.
It's one of those where it's like that's
kept secret kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you say I'm hoping that it's not going to happen because I don't want to go to Mexico. I'd rather go to Iowa after what I saw. I don't love road courses, right?
And now we have a good short track race, and it's going to be fighting for a position on. And then you might have another road course instead. I'm with you on that.
There was some debate on the teardown. Even some drivers after the race were giving their input on what do you do here in terms of this Frankenstein repave? Do you finish the corners? Do you repave the rest of the track? What do you think is...
I'd probably leave it alone.
Leave it just completely as is.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I would fix any kind of issues that were happening. If there, sometimes when you repave a track with new asphalt and where the sections are of the new and old joining, they can break and bust up. That old asphalt could chunk up and fly up. If there's any of that going on, fix it. There was some very bad bumps still getting into turn one. Maybe they could improve some of that a little bit, doing a little bit of paving, a couple paving strips in the braking zone to turn one. But honestly, man, if the drivers enjoyed it, I wouldn't touch it.
I think Denny had said that he was surprised that they were able to have 2 lanes, and if they paved the rest of the corner, then maybe there'd be a third, and fourth lane could be in action.
That idea just popped into my head. If anything, I would pave higher into turns. That's it.
I would even leave it. I think it was fun. Like that's a risk of someone gets in that gray.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't run there.
No.
You saw some people get punted up there. I think Noah Gragson in retaliation. Yes. John Nemechek sent him back up the track, and he lost 5 spots.
Right.
I think that's a cool element. You don't see that at many other tracks.
You can put you on the. They can send you up there intentionally to knowing that you're going to lose tons of grip when you get there.
It's even a wild card of if the leader enters too high, all of a sudden they get caught up in the marbles, and dang, that's a new element, a new challenge for the drivers. Yeah. I find that interesting.
I would leave it alone because he got a 91 on Jeff Gluck's pole. We watched it, we liked it.
If it ain't broke.
So a lot of people are saying that this is the best short track race in the NextGen era. So I want to throw a couple tracks at you and tell me if you think it was better or worse than races. All right. Martinsville.
Way better.
North Wilkesboro.
Maybe a little bit better than Wilkesboro.
Phoenix.
Wilkesboro needs 400 laps.
Well, yeah.
To be in this conversation, Wilkesboro needs the full miles. Sorry, keep going.
Phoenix.
Anything's better than Phoenix.
Richmond.
Richmond needs to be repaved.
Bristol.
I really love that Bristol race.
Yeah,
I don't know if we'll always get that. They don't know why that happened, and if we go back and that doesn't happen.
So, it's like second or third.
Yeah.
Gosh, I would hate to see it go.
What's second or third?
Like Iowa.
In our rankings.
I put it at the top.
All the way.
Better than Bristol?
Yes.
Even this past Bristol race.
I can't give Bristol the first place.
Because that was a one-off random.
Because I don't know if it was one-off.
If it happens again in the fall.
If we go back and have that same tire wear issue and they have to save and calm down and drive them smart, and then you got other guys that don't know how to do that, and they're idiots burning their tires up, then Bristol's one. And I would be too.
Damn.
I respect that.
But, this is the short track package. I thought Iowa's race was good. It was. But that standard should be a C.
Right.
We should.
It should be better.
Could be way. Yeah, I agree with you.
That right there, what we saw this weekend, should be what we expect every race. Not that's the best race.
Right, that's the bar.
That's the C.
Right.
That's the C grade. Right? And so we got some work to do.
It's crazy how if you were to watch that race 5 years ago, would it have the same result on the Gluck poll, or is it a 91 just because of how
bad the rest of them are?
Right, exactly.
Yes, that's what I mean. So, so what we need to remember is Iowa's race was great, but it is basically that's what we should expect every race, and that at times we should get something even more extraordinary, right? But that should always be the baseline in terms of what kind of what short track racing should be everywhere, right? You know what I mean? Am I making sense?
No,
100, yeah, great sense.
Okay.
I agree with
So
you.
Alex Bowman after the race said it races like 1.5 miles though. What does that even mean?
I guess he means because of the new pavement and stuff and the grip they have that you have to be careful about where you put your car aerodynamically, and that you need all that air coming underneath the splitter to get to the diffuser, and so you have to offset to the car in front of you all the time, much like you would always have to do at the 1.5 miles.
So could that be why it's is a good race in the next gen car because they're good on 1.5 miles?
Well, I think Alex, what I think we might be learning, and I'm hesitant to say this because I don't, it just sounds so backwards. Maybe the way to make short tracks better in the next gen era is newer pavement. We wouldn't, we've had 2 races with relatively new pavement, and I'd say Iowa we'll call that a repave because the pavement was in the corners. And it raced really good, and they can pass, and Wilkesboro was wide and multi-groove, and honestly, man, I feel like Denny might have said it. I think people are thinking that might be the unlocking the key to a great Richmond is to repave this racetrack. Which I think that would be what I would do if I was Richmond. I'd either seal it or repave it. When you seal it, the drivers are going to bitch and complain for about a year, because the sealer will be slick as crap. But once they get that taken care of and get the top edge of that sealer knocked off, it'll be just like a repave in terms of grip and But if you just want to go ahead and pave Richmond, pave it entirely.
Or just the corners. That's what we learned from
Right?
Iowa.
Yeah. If you want to be cheap, right? Or we didn't have enough time. Just pave the corners. Right.
It worked though, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be the new thing. Half repaves everywhere we go.
Yeah.
People were talking about, early. I think it was the first run of the race. Larson was kind of gapping second, third place. Cliff Daniels was saying, "Oh, they're saving their tires." How do you save especially in a race where the right front tire is not necessarily reliable? Like, is that the same as fuel mileage racing? You just run easier, slower lap times, a smoother entry? Like, how do you save your tires, especially in a race like this past weekend?
Well, you if you're trying to take care of the right front tire, you want to turn the wheel less. To turn the wheel less, you have to choose to go slower. And so while you could probably charge the entry and bury the car down in there and crank wheel and stand in the throttle and haul ass and cut a hell of a lap, what you'll do is you'll back off a car length earlier, slow the car down, don't throttle up quite as soon, don't put too much wheel in it, run maybe a higher line with a bigger arc so that you don't steer turn the right front tire. Because if you turn the steering wheel, right, and you point that right front tire, it's just creating more and more friction on that contact patch on the racetrack. And so that's kind of one way to do it. To Alex Bowman's point, if he was talking about aero and how the car may have been sensitive to aero, don't put yourself in situations where you're going to slide the right front tire. Or, if you cross the wake of another car in front of you, you'll get tight. You're going to send 5-10 degrees instantly into that right front tire, sliding it just for one corner, right? Maybe more. So you got to always try to avoid doing anything that's going to slide the right front tire, like getting aero tight or getting some bad air. So, those are the things that you're just constantly thinking about corner after corner after corner after corner to try to make sure, hey, I'm being nice to this right front tire. I'm not using it up, beating it up, taking it easy, and it'll hopefully pay off.
Interesting. Yeah, because I always like that. I feel like that made sense to me because
that's absolutely what they're having to do. They had to do at Bristol, right? They had to slow down.
Right, especially, in Bristol.
Slow down, keep temp out of the tire, not slide the tire across the racetrack, throttling up early off the corner and stuff and chasing the car.
Is it something you feel or is it something you measure? Like you said, like you'll back
you'll feel it.
You'll feel it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a feeling more than a visual thing.
Gotcha.
you can feel the tire, whether it's sliding or not, through the steering wheel or the seat of your pants in the seat. And so that's how you're kind of understanding how if you're really getting the tire near the edge and whether you're starting to slide it a little bit.
Did you see that right in the middle of the pit cycle, and DBC talked about it yesterday? Caution comes out. I think it was for Daniel Hemrick.
Yeah.
And this is
Hit the wall.
Hit the wall. Kept going. But then Eric Jones earlier blows a tire, no yellow.
Yeah.
I mean, Adam Stevens, what did he say? He was some like, I'll be nice about my words, but basically that was the biggest BS call he's ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably that's frustrating. And I mean, but it's nothing new, you know.
Yeah, these types of calls.
Golly, I mean, it's every other week. It's every other week, and it's dependent oddly on the point of the race.
Does it being in the middle of a pit cycle
Yes.
influence NASCAR wanting to call a caution or not? I know they won't admit it, but
They don't want to call a caution during the cycle. They don't.
right.
And so, because instead of, one crew chief yelling at them, they got 10 or 15 yelling at them. And, then you've NASCAR doesn't want to call a caution in the middle of the cycle because I imagine they just want the cycle to complete, if it can, to not throw a big monkey wrench into, a lot of strategies and favor a team that's taking it. But I mean, I don't look at it that way. I don't love that mentality I don't love the way that we look at yellows and why and when they should be thrown. I feel like that, if it's lap 25 or 10 to go, a caution is a caution. Right, and I would have in my mind, I've got an idea. If a car brushes the wall, like
Hemrick did.
or remember at Richmond with Kyle Busch, wasn't it?
Very similar this week in that. Yeah,
that ain't a yellow, man. Not a yellow. Never a yellow. And we ought to calm down and not throw it. And in my mind, I've been watching racing in this sport since the early 80s. The way they throw yellows has always changed, every probably 10 years or so. In the 70s and 80s, man, it took a lot to get a yellow flag. It took a lot. It was a crash. Cars crashed on the track. Someone brushing the wall, no, never got a yellow. There would be multiple. You go to Bristol in the 80s, 1987, 1994. There'd be multiple things happening that would draw a yellow today. Never drew yellows back then. And so the way the mentality in the booth and the mentality with NASCAR and how they feel about yellows and what should and shouldn't be a yellow has definitely changed and evolved, and they certainly probably got their reasons for that. But I just don't think that we shouldn't. I don't like the idea that it's not this exact. It had the same instance happen. This happens during a pit cycle, and we're not going to throw it. But if it happens with 10 to go, boy, that's a yellow. Rack them up.
So
is it not? Am I lying?
no, you're exactly right.
There's
A yellow's a yellow.
Yes.
It either is or it isn't.
That's the way I feel. It's like
no matter when.
You need. It's pretty clear, like where the threshold is for throwing a yellow or not. But that seems to move in the booth it moves depending on what's happening on the racetrack, what part of the race we're in.
Definitely.
That I don't love. 'Cause and only reason I don't love it is because you don't know how to call the race. Because
you're calling it off of circumstances,
yeah,
not just straight up black and white like you're saying.
So to a crew chief's point, it's very frustrating. Like, you're hearing things about your spotter, this is happening, or you don't know,
Well, and Freddie was saying yesterday on DBC, he was relaying to his team right before the Daniel Hemrick hit the wall. He's like, oh, Eric Jones just blew a tire. They're not calling that. So, like, don't expect any of those other type incidents to be a yellow. And then and then a lesser thing happened, and then they called the yellow.
Yes. You got to believe
anything
that they are absolutely going to contradict themselves. Every time. I mean, they do that. They open themselves they open themselves up to this by not throwing the yellow at an obvious moment of, well, that seems like a yellow, right? What was going on? Remember when the guys, they spun at the entrance to pit road in Atlanta?
So that was the instance I was going to bring up, because that was freaking, it was the entrance to pit road, but it was
very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was in the middle. It was in the middle of the fuel run.
Yeah,
it was in the middle of the fuel run.
I'm throwing the yellow flag. Sorry, that's a yellow. I'm throwing it. That's it.
That's a T-shirt. That's a yellow.
I don't envy their position, but yeah, there's definitely
I'm sorry, but if you do the same thing all the time, no one can come up there and raise hell.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Right? That's the thing.
Be consistent.
But I'll be honest. I mean, we're having an argument. We're giving NASCAR a hard time. They do a good job. 99% of the time, can't
probably
fault.
Better than I can do.
I don't want to be too hard on them. They've had a good little run here.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, they gave us a good short track race, so.
But I'll tell you, man, I have been inside that race car during some of those moments, and it is infuriating.
Oh, I bet
if you're a crew chief in the thick of it, middle of the race, and that's going on, you almost cannot control yourself.
Oh, Adam Stevens
exploding.
Could not.
Yeah,
they played that. I've seen the clip on Twitter. He was pissed.
Yeah.
He was not happy about it. And I guess rightfully so.
Yeah. Kyle Busch's bad luck continues. I see so Kyle Busch has had some bad luck last couple of weeks, and he's losing some points to the cut line, and I see the media, they're latching onto this. They're gonna try. I think I would. They're gonna try to push Kyle Busch's buttons. Don't you think?
The media?
Yeah,
100%. Turn up the heat.
They are.
I want him to say something ridiculous.
They're trying already. Remember, they asked him in the media center, would he go back to
Hendrick?
Or Gibbs?
He goes, Joe Gibbs. He goes, sure. If Hendrick called me to, or whatever, I'll go there.
Yeah, if they welcomed me back, I'd go back.
Yeah.
But I'm
happy here. I'm happy here at RCR.
They did him wrong right there. And
But does he seem content at RCR right now? Like, I would
say he
did
during the fight with Ricky Stenhouse, where he said, "We both suck." I don't think he's content.
I don't think he's happy how he's performing, but I don't think the guy is trying to torpedo his partnership or relationship. I don't think he's trying to get himself fired.
I agree with that.
But the media is going to pick up, and they're already picking up on, hey, man, 9 races to go. Can he do it? 8 races to go, 7 races to go, 6 races to go. And these things these things are not things that Kyle Busch loves to be in the middle of. And so every week, they're probably going to be trying to ping him in the media a little bit about, how you feeling this week? What do you think about this week? How's it going this week? And he is going to have a hard time, keeping his comments, clean, so that nobody, there's no collateral damage.
I understand it has to be annoying to hear those same questions every week. Yeah. But this is a compelling storyline.
It is.
Him and Joey Logano. 2 champions.
Yeah. Well,
right now, looking on the outside.
I don't hear that many people banging the drum. What's going on, Joey?
Right.
They're going for Kyle because they know Kyle's short-tempered, short fuse, easily to, get a bit annoyed in those moments in the media centers and stuff. So I just hope Kyle can see through all that. If it works out and he makes the playoff, he makes the playoffs. If it doesn't. And they'll have to, hopefully hopefully it doesn't turn into a real drama situation, right? Where there is some problems, right, with RCR and Kyle, but I don't think it will. But the media can make it feel that way. I'm hoping that there's not any problems, that they're in the background behind at RCR going, we're going to get it right. Kyle's on board, everything's good.
What a difference in years. I mean, 3 wins last year and then none this year.
Go around, win next week, and
exactly.
No problem. Yeah. The Xfinity race was awesome. Sam Mayer survives and wins. Honestly, fellas, I was watching that race. I got to watch a lot of that race, but we had to get up and go to dinner with the big group of family.
Before you went and choked.
Yeah. So I had to sit there and watch the race on. That didn't happen that night. I didn't choke that night. But I watched the race on the NASCAR app. But Sam did a good job. I saw the replays, all the comments. Herbst and those guys raced hard. Herbst doors him on the cool down lap. Not a big deal. Whatever. I don't get upset about that. Them kids can do all the. Just don't turn him head on in the wall, right? I don't want any of that going on. But the dooring and showing frustrations, that's great. That's good for the sport.
You don't care.
Don't care. He was not. I read his comments and saw his interview, and Herbst said that it was more about how they raced early in the race, which I did see all that. And Sam missed turn 1, drives up into the side of the 98, sends the 98 into the dirt. I was like, oh, man, Sam, don't let him get back to you. Hopefully you can get about 4 or 5 corners to get him to cool down before he can hit your ass right back, because if he could have got to him in the next turn, he'd have probably spun him out, meaning Herbst spinning Sam. So that was a tough moment, and Herbst had every right to be really ticked off about that. Sam's very aggressive. They were aggressive on the final couple of laps and restarts and so forth with each other. But I think Herbst's comments were like, hey, that was fine. That was hard racing. It was what happened earlier in the race that I was still upset with, and understand all that.
The broadcast was saying that Marty Lindley was telling Sam, like, you can't be pushed around. Like, you got to hold your ground. Is that one of the situations where he's racing aggressive just to show, hey, you can't push me around. Like, I'm going to race you hard.
Herbst?
Sam Mayer.
Oh, Sam's just always raced this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Herbst is the one, I think, trying to show people that he's no pushover. And he's not soft. And he has to do that, because I think a lot of people thought Herbst didn't have any talent. I think a lot of people thought Herbst was soft and wasn't much of a racer, wasn't tough. And he's spent probably the last year and a half trying to prove that he's the exact opposite, right? Mm-hmm. He's gotten himself into victory lane, and you see him in these moments saying, hey, I'm not okay with that. And I think that's important for him. Sam is just he's a 20-year-old kid that's pissed off he's not getting a cup ride, which he might get considered for one of these cup rides that's opened up. But in his mind, he's thinking, man, look at all I've done. Nobody's called me. What in the hell? He's getting angry, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, he's 20 years old. He needs to settle down. I don't know. I mean, somebody should call him. But don't make it – if you can use it to fuel yourself to succeed, right, go out and race like this every week and win races, use it. But don't let it become a problem, right? As a 20-year-old, typically – you're gonna get mad about something. Somebody's not calling you to offer you a cup ride, and you could end up, spiraling into a bad spot.
That could be good motivation, though.
It could. But are 20-year-olds capable of doing that?
I don't know. Feel like sometimes when I'm 22, but if I'm pissed off about something,
I guess I'm looking inward and saying, at 20, I wasn't able to take something that pissed me off and make it motivate me to go succeed. And maybe I'm just not, maybe I'm not like Sam or like you, but usually when I got mad, I made things worse.
Right.
And so, Sam's just, Sam believes that he belongs in the Cup Series or should be getting some offers or should be getting looked at by a couple of these teams that have openings. I would agree with him. He's got some things to clean up in his whole, his bag of tricks. He's got some things to clean up in his racecraft, but the guy's good. When we were racing our late model stock car for a 10-year chunk, we had Christian Eckes, we had William Byron, Sam Mayer. We had a handful of these drivers that came through our program and were teammates with Josh. Now, Josh won all the time. Win, right? And these other guys would come in and run a couple years and then leave, right? Go race a truck or whatever. And they would have good success at times, but Sam really was the one I thought that ran Josh the hardest. And for whatever reason, I feel like Sam's got a raw ability or a raw talent that is really serving him well right now. Once he cleans up the rest of it, I mean, he's 20. Once he matures mentally and cleans up some of the other things about his racecraft, you got a hell of a race car driver. Really good, right? But these, in the Cup team that he ends up with, if he ever were to get a Cup ride, would need to be a little patient. But they would end up with a really fast, talented driver.
100%.
Yeah.
I mentioned the broadcast. They were talking about Sam. They obviously NBC was back this weekend. I know you're buddies with Steve and Jeff and Rick. Was it weird kind of watching them broadcast?
Yeah, really weird. They did a great job. Sean Owens, the whole TV compound, the truck and camera work, all that stuff, just so good.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Post race coverage. Freaking awesome, man.
NBC, they just do a great job, right? All across the board. And it was weird listening to the booth and not being there. And I texted them, gave them a hard time, told them they didn't have no energy. But it was fun. Today's Rick Allen's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Rick Allen.
Happy birthday, Rick Allen.
So, I miss it, man. It's no, yesterday was Rick Allen's birthday. Sorry.
Happy belated birthday.
Happy belated. But it's cool, man. They're great guys, and they were there is zero frustrations or anything like that. I don't want anybody thinking that. And I mean, there's always there's another part of this is like a lot of those people in that TV compound, like Sean Owens and those folks, I may likely work with them again in the future. So there's some good chances that if I stay in broadcasting long term, that we will all, you'll see those people again.
There's a lot of the same names that pop around,
and a lot of the same networks use a bunch of the same group,
right? Like year round. Yeah. I notice a lot of camera guys. I think are year round,
and so you gotta be. I'm excited about that. When I get back in the booth next year, who will I see that'll be? Hey, you, yeah. So I'm sure we'll have a lot of familiar faces.
Speaking of familiar faces, Ryan Blaney just sent.
All right.
What's happening, fellas?
Hey, Ryan, how's it going, bud?
Good. How y'all doing?
We're hanging in there, man. Just talking about that race in Iowa that you ended up winning. So you've won a truck race, an Xfinity race, and a Cup race there.
Yeah.
And is that like you consider that your home track?
Partly.
Yeah.
My mom's, from up that way.
Yeah.
got a lot of family up there. So, yeah, I do consider it kind of a home track, even though I didn't like grow up there. We went up there a lot as kids, but yeah, pretty cool to win there in 3 series. Like that's awesome.
There was a lot of people there that were, I guess maybe family or sponsors. You had a big crowd in the grandstands.
All family.
Yeah. So did they come down to the pits?
Yeah.
And
we got them across the racetrack. I don't know how we did it.
Right.
But
it was like 30, it looked like about 30 people or something.
Yeah, there was probably about 70 there altogether, and then probably 30, 35 came to Victory Lane, which was neat.
That's awesome. So that must have been pretty fun.
It was, it was a lot of cousins, a lot of aunts and uncles and stuff like that, and a lot of them I hadn't seen in a while, that was cool. And gosh, most of them there, they were there in 2012 when I won that truck race. They were there in 15 when I won that Xfinity race, and then they were there this weekend. I had one aunt that the only 3 races she's ever been to, we won at, and it was in Iowa. So she's like a good luck charm. Yeah. But that was cool, man.
So the racetrack, man, turned out to be pretty awesome. Watching it at home, both the Xfinity and the Cup race, the track raced really well. We were just sitting here talking about what does Iowa do? Do they leave it alone or do they try to finish the job? We almost feel like they shouldn't mess with it. But what would you do?
Man, yeah, honestly, it exceeded my expectations, the race. Watching the Xfinity race, how quickly they kind of moved up the racetrack, I was like, oh, man, that's good. Like, that's going to be great for us. And, I thought it was a heck of a race. Like, you had 3 lanes, minimum 2.5 lanes, really. And you could be pretty versatile. Like, the restarts were nuts. I thought it was good racing. I rewatched the race on Monday, and I thought there was action everywhere. So I don't know. That's been kind of the topic. I've been listening to everybody on podcasts and stuff of, well, what should we do? What should we do with the paving situation? And I'm kind of back and forth on it because I thought it was good, but maybe if you pave, it up to the wall, it's just going to give you more lanes. Yep. If the rubber continues to get laid down and the asphalt continues to take the rubber to where you can do that stuff, that's great. Maybe you don't pave the whole thing. Maybe you just keep it in the corners like it was, because a big challenge there was, like, you saw a lot of people about bust their butts into turn 1. Yeah. With all the bumps getting in there. Like, that's a big characteristic of that place I think you should keep.
Okay.
I don't think if you just get a super smooth racetrack, I think it takes some character away from it and challenges away from it. So maybe you just continue doing it in the corners, but pave, up to the wall.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea that I thought that immediately too, and then my buddies here, Andrew and Dalton, said, well, it was fun watching the drivers run each other up into the dirt, which is, as a driver, you don't love that at all, but watching it on TV, you're like, hell, he's using him up, and then once them sides hit that old asphalt, the guy would go backwards. So
maybe you just pave one more lane to where you still have that junk.
Yeah, the junk.
But you just get another lane of racing. Yeah.
So, coming off of an incredible year last year and winning championship and all of those things, this year's been tough at points. Y'all have had the speed and the pace. Where do you think the team's at?
Yeah, honestly, I got asked that question at Media Center and today on Sirius, and really, I look at it, I think our team is honestly in a better spot than where we were last year this time. Just mentality-wise, like pace-wise, I think we're getting to where we need to be. So, and I look at, I just try to look at performance up to this point. I feel like we've performed better week in and week out. We might not have some of the finishes that show for it. Getting wrecked at Texas when I thought we had a top 5 car, getting wrecked at Darlington when I thought we had a top 5 car, breaking at Charlotte, had the race won at Gateway and running out of gas, running 25th. Like, I think we've had good speed and potential in our cars. It's just some of the finishes haven't really, reflected that. So it was nice to finally get a race to where, all right, we did a really good job all night, all weekend, finally got in victory lane. But no, I think our group's in a great spot, really, and hopefully we can have continue this momentum, because we're finding some stuff on the short tracks. Got to find a little bit more on the 1.5 miles, but no, I think we're in a great spot, and even better one than where we were this time last year.
Yeah. Do you think, did we think, and when you mentioned the short tracks, and we've, been a big conversation around the short tracks in the next gen era, is Iowa a place where you can learn anything that might help the short track package? Have we helped the short track package? Is the short track package trending in a good direction? What do you think's the takeaway from this weekend, if there is any at all?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the tire is like always a big thing of conversation, right? How do you get the tire to continue to wear out? We saw a couple failures, in the right fronts this weekend. It's always that fine line of, well, you need a tire that's soft and that wears out, but you don't just want to keep blowing tires. Then everyone's like, well, just not use the tire as much. It's like, well, there's like a fine line of tires just coming apart, and you don't think you're really abusing them to wear on a tire. So I don't know. I mean, the tire fight is still something that we look at. The horsepower fight is a never-ending war of trying to get more.
Never-ending war.
It's never ending. I don't know if it's a winnable war at this point, but we're going to keep fighting for more horsepower, just because that's, like, to me, that is easy help. Like, maybe it's not easy, right? All right, you got to kind of rebuild some motors, but take some of the plates off of them, you're going to get a couple hundred more horsepower pretty easy. But I just think that's like what you need on short tracks. I think you need it everywhere, but I think on short tracks then that helps your tire wear out. Yeah. As far as it gets worse when you're spinning tires more on exit, it gets worse. So, like, that is something I feel like we're continuing to push, and hopefully we're making gains. Obviously, you want everything to be better, quicker, now, but it's a slow process, and I think we're creeping on it. Hopefully, it continues to get in the right direction. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time today, man. Thanks for calling us and giving us a little bit.
Guys.
Congratulations on the win. Good luck going forward. We'll see you soon.
All right, appreciate it, fellas. Thank
buddy.
you.
Hey, everybody, it's Dale Jr. here for another episode of Ask Junior on the Dale Jr. Download in the Bojangles studio. I want to thank Xfinity for supporting this segment of the show. You can get the speed you need on or off the track with Xfinity Mobile, fastest mobile service with 5G and millions of hotspots, Wi-Fi hotspots all across the nation. With its nationwide coverage, you'll always have that service. It'll come through in a clutch. Make the switch today and save with Xfinity Mobile. They're a proud premier partner of NASCAR and a great supporter here at the Dale Jr. Download and everything here at Dirty Mo Media. So thank you, Xfinity. Let's get to these questions.
Yeah, this first question is coming from Gabe, and I think you said something similar. I think I saw this week on Bob Pockris. He tweeted out, but how many more years do you want to continue racing?
Me?
Yeah.
I honestly feel like that this might be the last Xfinity race.
Oh.
Yeah. And you just never know, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason for me to say that. And there may be an opportunity that comes up and you're like, yeah, I want to do that. So you get back in, So I don't want to make too much of it, but I'm getting toward the finish of all of it. Now my late model stock car, I love doing that, and those races are really fun. They're hard, and it's a bit of a commitment to go out there every weekend. I don't know how those guys do it with the traveling and everything that involves it. You have to want to do that. And so, but I'm enjoying running my late model stock car, so I'll probably keep doing that for quite some time. I just don't know how long. I mean, I want to be able to feel like I can go win and shoot be 50 in October. So, maybe 5 more years, maybe 10.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, you lit some laps at Bristol last year.
Yeah, and Xfinity. I know, but that's a work going and doing that Xfinity race. There's so much more to it than just showing up and what you saw at Bristol, right? There's sim work and sponsor photo shoots, and just to do one race there's a lot a lot of commitments throughout the year that have to be settled. So
where you can just go hop in a late model kind of.
run a late model. I just go do it.
Right.
Wherever, almost at the drop of a hat.
Right.
Yeah.
This, speaking of wins and winning, this next question coming from Callie, and she wants to know, I think it was yesterday was the anniversary of the Batman win at Michigan.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that day? I know I saw some people on Twitter saying that was a freaking fast rocket ship of a car.
So, Steve and the guys, they had figured out this trick. We were learning that skew in the cars was really good, right? Putting and skewing the rear end housing. And so y'all remember when they outlawed the 77 car at Charlotte, the Penske car, what's his face was driving it?
Hornish.
Remember that thing going around there crooked?
Yeah.
So that's like max, extreme skew, right? So they've got the rear end in the car locked in that position. Well, NASCAR made some rule changes that would eliminate the ability to lock the rear end or just set the car up with the rear end in it crooked. You could shim it and bolt it tight, and it would be there and just drive the car and it run crooked. The ARCA cars do it. So we had to figure out how to get that skew back. When everybody learned that skew was faster and they took it away, right? Well, now we got to find out a way to get it back because they're gonna try to get it back, and they're gonna try to get it back. So we better go to work. So we found a way. I think we were able to put a bushing in the left or the right trailing arm that was like rubber or some polymer or something that could flex, right? And we had some that would move a lot, but you were worried that, it moving not all day during the race, it would tear it apart because they did fail because they were moving so much in and out of the throttle, right, would move it. So we figured out that, if we softened up that left side bushing on the trailing arm, when you got in the throttle, it would skew, but when you were off throttle, it would straighten out. So how do we get it to stay? Like I got the bushing where it can move and skew the rear end housing, but I need a way to hold it there. And so we could run rear sway bars. And we mounted our rear sway bar in a way that when the car traveled, the sway bar pulled the left side of the rear end housing forward. And so, man, a car goes around through tech in the garage, probably inches high, at least a couple, right? Because we still had height rules, I believe, back then. As soon as you go out on the racetrack and that car gets in the air, it sinks and seals to the ground, right? And so that would then track bar would pry that rear end housing into skew and hold it. And so we figured that out. Jimmy had it going on that same day, and I think what happened was we ended up really kicking some ass there for a while. NASCAR figured out what we were doing, outlawed a part or a piece, like, something with the sway bar to where we couldn't do it that way anymore. And Brad and his team figured out a new way to do it, and they win the championship.
Holy cow!
Yeah, he comes.
That is so fascinating.
I love this stuff.
He ends up becoming really strong in the last 14 or 12 races.
Yeah, that's when he came alive that year.
Yeah, and now they figured it out. We've lost our part. We lost the pieces that we knew that were working for us, and they figured out a way to do it another way somehow. I don't even know how they did it, but yeah.
I find that stuff so fascinating.
Yeah, man. When Steve took me under the car and showed me how that track bar was working, I was like, damn, that's so simple. Like, of course, right? Or the sway bar. And I don't know. You wouldn't never run a sway bar in the back, but it was still you could still do it. And so once they saw us doing that, we're like, they're doing something with that sway bar that they're not that's not supposed to be happening, because people don't run sway bars anymore. Why would they have it under there? It's doing something that it's not being a sway bar. It's being something else. And they figured it out, took it.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. I see a lot of these comments, including a few, I think, in the YouTube chat every week. You've gone silent on the updates regarding the Titanic.
Hadn't touched it.
Haven't touched it yet.
Yeah.
That's what the people want to know.
Yeah. It's at, me and Amy are going to build it together, and I think we'll probably start in the next, we'll probably get it done over the next 3 weeks.
Construction begins.
Yeah. We've had a lot of, we've been on vacation. We had a bunch of family cycling through the house and friends, and so we just haven't had nights alone, right, to be able, what are we going to do tonight?
Right.
You know? And so, we're going to have I'm going back on vacation for a couple more weeks, and should just be just us and the kids.
You know, with that thing built of Legos, it's the unbreakable ship.
Mm.
That's what they call it.
Got it. Well, I was thinking about as we made the progress, I could sit it on that counter behind me at the remote studio, so you could see.
Oh, that would be sick.
Oh,
like
would be
see
cool.
it as it builds
we're
up.
getting further.
That'd be
That
awesome.
would be cool.
And it would hold me accountable to actually want to try to add to it as we going.
Yeah. Damn, freaking like 3 pieces between 1 week and 2
You haven't
weeks.
touched it.
Yeah. What the hell? Yeah. That's what people want to know. They.
I'll take the printer since I'm not using it.
Yeah.
you
No.
go.
We've gone paperless.
Big upgrade.
Yes, we have.
Cool. That's a good place to.
Come on.
What, you want one more?
Yeah.
Dalton has a good follow up
I've
from
got-
a last week conversation.
I have one that I'm going to do later, so you'll have to listen to the rest of the show. But I wanted to ask you, what'd you do for Father's Day?
Oh. Well, if you saw Amy's, we got up. We actually had we kind of did the ceremonial stuff the day before. And we got up, got in a shower, and cleaned up, and the girls all had gifts for the dads. There were, myself included, 4 dads in the house. And so all of us got a pair of pink swim trunks that we had to wear the next day on the fishing trip.
Badass.
So you'll see the shark video. I got the pink swim trunks on. So all the husbands had pink swim trunks on.
They were cool. They were
fine.
good looking.
Yeah, they were fine. And I got 2 pair of flip flops, and they got this NASCAR game. Amy got me. So have you ever seen the? There's these little horse racing cards. It's a bit of a betting game if you want to make it that. But basically, you get dealt some cards, and those are your horses. And there's a horse track that you set it on a table, and you roll dice. And the dice determine which horse. You know, if you roll a 6, the 6 horse goes forward. If you roll a 4, the 4 horse, and they all have to go. They go forward till they cross the finish line. And your card is your horse. And so, you know, if your card wins, you win the pot. But they have that as a NASCAR game now, and Amy got me that, so that should be pretty fun playing with that. But yeah, it's very simple. We hung out on the beach a little bit, but fun day.
Sounds like a good day.
Easy.
It's the kind of day dads want, right? Like a quiet day.
Amy made it. Amy, this was kind of a new structure that Amy says this is what she prefers going forward. So I had to she's like, here's your Father's Day. This is what's going to happen. And when Mother's Day comes, I want this too. And it was basically like, all right, if there's a gift or anything like that in the moment with the kids or the parents, we're going to do that the day before. We're going to do a lunch or anything like that the day before. So we're going to do all of the ceremonial stuff that day. And then the actual Mother's Day or Father's Day, you know, here's the key to the car. Go take off, do whatever you want. I got you a spa if you want to do that. You know, do whatever. Find your girlfriends and have brunch. Whatever, right? So me and the dads got up, ate breakfast, and left the house around 11 o'clock and went bar hopping till about 6 or 7.
Damn right.
And we had a good time.
That sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it was good.
Speaking of a good time, that's a good
All right.
time to rack up.
All right, everybody. I appreciate the great questions today. Hope everybody's doing well this summer. It's nice to be back in the studio. We're going to hit the road again and get back in the remote studio for another week or two, and then we'll be back for the rest of the year. But I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. Thank you, Xfinity. Thank you, Xfinity Mobile, for everything y'all do to support us here at the Ask Junior portion of the show. Xfinity Mobile is a proud premier partner of NASCAR and a great supporter here at Dirty Mo Media. So y'all have a great week. All right, it's time for Dirty Mo Doe, and always at the table for this segment of the show is Tampa Tim's Alex Timms. How's it going?
What's up? How's it going?
Things are good, man. Let's get right into it. 5 units on Ryan Blaney to win. That was your live bet?
That was my big live bet, yeah.
When did you make it?
Oh, man, probably like 60 to go maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was lights out all day.
Yeah.
So I missed him pre-race, so I had to get him live.
Yeah, that worked out pretty good. Chase Elliott, Chase Elliott was on fire. Bowman back. Yeah, I saw it. Bowman back in the top 10. Yeah. All those bets you made?
Yeah, so Bowman and Elliott, Chase is like so consistent. NASCAR brought that stat. He hasn't finished outside the top 20. He's been top 5 when he's finished in top 10, so we bet him top 5. And Bowman has been the top 10 machine this year, so we got him too.
All right, man. Those are good bets. You made those bets before the race?
Yes.
Man, smart stuff. Other bets you made, U.S. Open.
Yeah, I was a blind tail this weekend. I'm not going to lie. I think I hit like 4 out of 6 round matchups, and then my big one was Scotty Scheffler to shoot over 70, I think, in round 4 because he hadn't gone under par yet. So that hit, and it was a good weekend.
Nice. What are your way too early predictions from New Hampshire?
Well, the guy that's in the news this week because he's retiring, Truex, always good here. Christopher Bell's good here. And then we're going to keep riding the Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman train, I think.
Yeah. So are we going to make an in-show bet? We talked about doing that.
We can. I got one for tonight.
You got one?
I got one.
What is
Stanley Cup Finals, Game 5. I think the Florida Panthers close it out.
All right. Oh. So just Florida money line.
Florida money line. It's minus 140, so it's a little bit juicy, but I think this series is going to match what the NBA Finals did. And they're going to close it out tonight.
All right. I'm going to put 1 unit on that.
1 unit, minus 140 on FanDuel.
We're going to follow that. Follow that.
Yep, on FanDuel.
Tim's, we're going to follow up with you next week about that.
That's fine.
Better not let me down.
That's fine.
So, last night, or when did you send us the text?
Probably like afternoon yesterday.
Yesterday afternoon, he sends us a parlay for last night's final game of the NBA playoffs, and I put a unit on that, and I think did you?
I did not.
You did not. Oh man, you missed out.
I think Dalton did.
Dalton did too. So
yeah.
we know Dalton did, but it was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 player parlay.
It was ridiculous.
And it was pretty locked in up until the very end. We just needed 1 rebound, which we eventually got. And so we all won. And so good job, Tim's.
Thank you.
Man, you're doing pretty well.
I'm on a run right now.
You are on
a run.
You are.
Just blindly follow me. I'm on a run.
Yep. You can follow Tampa Tim's and all his advice on Dirty Mo Doe, dropping every Thursday on our Dirty Mo Media platforms. It's a great show. You don't want to miss it. All right, it's time for the white flag. Dropping Sunday night was the teardown with Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi, covering everything that they saw happen during the race on Sunday in Iowa. And then Monday, action's detrimental with Denny Hamlin and door bumper clear with tons of rumors. Some good, some dropping tomorrow, Speed Street with Connor Daly and Chase Holden. And Paul Andrews comes into the studio. Paul Andrews, crew chief's been around for a long time, crew chief Alan Kwiecki, and he's actually been working on some of our late model stuff here lately. It's been a lot of fun getting to know Paul better. So we'll be interviewing him this week. That drops tomorrow. And then Thursday, DJD Reloaded and Dirty Mo Doe. And don't forget, Win Dale Jr.'s Ride has relaunched. It relaunched, I
think today.
Today? Yeah. All right, this is the 14th year of the program. This year, we're back to giving away Corvettes. So a brand new 2021 Chevy Corvette Stingray. Raffle tickets are $25, and the program runs until September 30th. or until our tickets will sell out. So thanks to Chevrolet for allowing to support this, and the Dale Jr. Foundation will be covering the taxes, and so that alleviates that concern. Junior Motorsports announced on Monday that William Byron will pilot the number 24 HendrickCars.com late model stock entry in the Cars Tour event at Caraway Speedway on Wednesday, July the 3rd. Excited about that. Looking forward to seeing William back behind the wheel of a Junior Motorsports late model. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Paul Andrews might be there helping
Ask
William
him about it.
Yeah, helping William with that. We had a great Apple review.
Yeah, I put an Apple review.
Yeah,
We're going to try and start,
Start those
reviewing.
back?
Yeah, so any 5-star review,
Okay.
we'll try and pick one a week that we'll hit in white flag.
How do you SUEB 22.9 says that phenomenal interview with Mario Andretti. For my dad's 50th birthday, I gave him a trip to the Indy race at Pocono. It was wonderful to watch my dad meet Mario. Mario has no idea what that meant to my dad and I. Also, round 4 of the Denny Hamlin Bracket Challenge heads to New Hampshire. Follow your bracket at dirtymomedia.com/bracket challenge. Have a good week, everybody.